Beloved chosen one, this message is not a coincidence. If you are here, understand that this is a divine appointment. God is calling you forward to step into your true identity. No more hiding, no more hesitation. You have been chosen, and now is the time to declare to the world who you truly are. The prayers you whispered in the silence, the breakthroughs you've been waiting for, the purpose that has been burning inside of you, it all leads to this moment. But there is something you must do. Step forward and reveal the truth. Do not let fear hold you back. There is no fear. Hold no power over the call of God in your life. When you walk in your purpose, God will hold your hand and will kill your judgment on your Have you ever wondered why, despite your faith, your talent, and your heart for God, you still struggle financially? Why do the chosen ones, handpicked by God, often face hardship while others seem to prosper effortlessly? Is it punishment, or is there a greater divine purpose behind it all? Today, we uncover the truth. Before we go any further, I invite you to do 3 things right now. Like this video, subscribe as we push toward 1,000 chosen ones standing in faith together, and comment 777 below. This is more than an action. It is a spiritual declaration, a signal that you are stepping into alignment with this truth. To those who have supported this movement, to those who have sown into this message, your generosity will not go unnoticed. I pray that God blesses you abundantly, that He returns to you tenfold what you have poured out. You are not just another person watching a video. You are a part of something bigger than yourself. You are part of a movement, a generation of chosen ones rising together. Now take a deep breath. Let this truth settle in your spirit. This is your moment. This is your time. First, to begin today's message, let's take a short quiz with 10 questions. Each yes answer counts as 1 point, and each no counts as 0 points. After answering, you can calculate your score and refer to the results based on the scale provided. Question 1, do you struggle to pay your monthly bills? Question 2, do you often have to borrow money to make ends meet? Question 3, do you frequently lack enough money to cover basic living expenses? Question 4, do you feel anxious about not having enough money for unexpected expenses? Question 5, do you often delay paying your debts due to insufficient funds? Question 6, do you feel that your current income is not enough to meet your living needs? Question 7, are you unable to pay for tuition or training courses you wish to attend? Question 8, do you feel you don't have enough finances to invest in your family's future? Question 9, do you have to take on extra work or earn money outside of your main job to cover living expenses? Question 10, do you feel that financial pressure affects your mental and physical health? Results, 0 to 3 points. Your financial situation is relatively stable, and you don't face much difficulty managing your finances. 4 to 7 points. Your financial situation may be facing some challenges. 8 points. You are experiencing serious financial difficulties and need to find solutions to improve your situation. My dear friends, through the small test above, you've been able to assess your financial difficulties. But have you ever asked yourself, if I am chosen, why do I have to face financial struggles? Why am I struggling? Why does it feel like every door is closed, every opportunity just out of reach? But hear me, this is not punishment. This is preparation of God. God is not using financial lack to break you. He is using it to build you. Every great warrior must be trained before battle. Every masterpiece must be refined before it is revealed. And every chosen one must be tested before stepping into their divine assignment. Look at the greatest leaders in the Bible: David, Joseph, Moses. Before they walked in their calling, they endured seasons of hardship, isolation, and lack. Not because God had abandoned them, but because He was preparing them for something far greater than they could imagine. You are no different. This season of struggle is shaping you, molding you, and refining you. It is stripping away everything that does not align with the destiny God has for you. So do not mistake this struggle for rejection. Do not let discouragement take root. Instead, stand firm in faith, knowing that what you are facing today is only a stepping stone to what God is preparing for you tomorrow. Trust the process. Hold on to His promise. He is not punishing you. He is preparing you. And when the time is right, you will step into the abundance that was always meant for you. And what if your financial struggle isn't a curse, but a calling? What if your lack isn't a sign of failure, but a tool in God's hand to refine you for something greater? God never allows suffering without purpose. Every challenge, every closed door, every moment of uncertainty is shaping you for the mission He has designed for your life. Your financial hardship is not random. It is part of a divine plan. Your love, ambition is not divine for your life. But I will be more specific about the story of Joseph. Before he stepped into his destiny, he was thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, and imprisoned. He had nothing, yet God was positioning him for a greater purpose. The same is true for you. This season is not about what you lack. It's about who you are becoming. God is using this time to teach you wisdom, resilience, and trust. He is strengthening your spirit, deepening your faith, and preparing you to carry the blessings that will come. Because when God elevates you, He wants you to be ready, not just to receive, but to steward His provision wisely. So do not despise this season. Do not let frustration steal your faith. Know that every struggle is a step in the direction of your destiny. Stay faithful, stay expectant, and trust that in due time, God will release everything He has promised. Your financial lack is not your end. It is your preparation for something greater. Beloved chosen ones, the world tells you that money is the answer to everything, that if you just had enough, all your problems would disappear. But the truth is, money can deceive. It can create a false sense of security that pulls you away from God, making you trust in wealth instead of the one who provides it. God never intended for money to be your foundation. He intended for him to be. But when wealth flows easily, it's tempting to believe you are self-sufficient, that you don't need to seek God as much. This is why he sometimes allows financial lack, not to harm you, but to remind you where your true security lies. Remember, the Israelites in the wilderness, the Israelites had no banks, no businesses, no stored up riches. Yet, they lacked nothing. Why? Because their survival did not depend on wealth, it depended on God. For 40 years, they wandered through a barren land where no crops could grow, where there was no stable economy. Yet God sustained them daily. Every morning, he rained down manna from heaven, providing exactly what they needed for that day. Deuteronomy 8:03 reminds us, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." God wasn't just feeding their bodies, he was teaching them a lesson. Dependence on him is greater than dependence on wealth. If God provided for an entire nation in the middle of the desert, do you not believe he can provide for you now? If he could make water flow from a rock and send quail from the skies, do you not think he is aware of your needs today? The world teaches that security comes from savings, investments, and assets. But the truth is, everything you need flows from God's hand. If you put your faith in money, you will always fear running out. But if you put your faith in God, you will never lack what is truly necessary. So even in times of financial hardship, trust in the one who fed his people in the wilderness. The same God who sustained them is the same God who will sustain you. God doesn't want money to control you. He wants you to trust him more than your bank account. Because wealth can disappear, but his provision never will. So if you're facing financial hardship, don't see it as punishment. See it as an opportunity to strengthen your faith, to release your grip on material things, and to hold tighter to the one who never fails. When your trust is in God, you will never lack what you truly need. My friends, there is something about struggle that makes you pray harder. When everything is going well, when the bank account is full, when opportunities are pouring in, it's easy to forget where your true provision comes from. But when you face financial hardship, when you don't know how the next bill will be paid, that's when you drop to your knees and remember who your provider truly is. God allows seasons of lack not to punish you, but to draw you closer to him. He removes false security so that you can learn to trust him fully. Because the truth is, money can fail, plans can fall apart, but God never does. Psalm 50:10 tells us, "For every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle upon 1,000 hills." God owns it all. He has unlimited resources. And when he sees that you are trusting him instead of material things, he will supply what you need in ways you never expected. Some of the most powerful prayers are born out of struggle. Some of the greatest faith is built in times of need. Because when you have nothing else to lean on, you finally lean on God. And that is exactly where he wants you to be. So if you find yourself in a season of financial difficulty, do not let fear take hold. Instead, let it push you into deeper prayer, into stronger faith, and into a relationship with the one true provider. He will not fail you. I will tell you a truth, that money is not just currency. It is a test, a mirror that reflects the true condition of your heart. It forces you to answer one question: who do you truly serve, God or wealth? Jesus made it clear in Matthew 6:24, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Wealth itself is not evil, but the love of money, the pursuit of it above all else, can pull you away from God. This is why God allows financial struggles, not to harm you, but to test you, to see if your trust is truly in Him or in your bank account. Think about it. When money is flowing, do you still seek God with the same passion? Do you still trust in His timing, or do you rely on your own ability? When wealth increases, does your heart remain humble, or does pride begin to take root? God is watching how you handle what you have now, because if you cannot be faithful with little, how can He trust you with more? So if you are struggling financially, take a moment to examine your heart. Ask yourself, do I serve God or do I serve money? Because only one can sit on the throne of your life. Choose wisely, because what you choose determines everything. Beloved chosen ones, and I want to emphasize one thing for sure: you cannot serve both God and money. There is no middle ground, no way to balance between two masters. And the Bible has clearly stated this as well. Jesus said in Matthew 6:24, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. This is not just a warning, it is a reality. Your heart will always lean toward one or the other. Money, when placed above God, becomes a cruel master. It demands your time, your energy, your devotion. It makes you believe that if you just had a little more, you'd finally feel secure, finally be happy. But it's a lie. Money can never satisfy the soul. God, on the other hand, is a master who gives rather than takes. He does not enslave you to fear, greed, or anxiety. Instead, He calls you into freedom. Freedom from worry, freedom from chasing material things, freedom from being consumed by the temporary. This is why He allows seasons of financial struggle, not to punish you, but to show you where your heart truly is. When you have little, do you still trust Him? When wealth increases, do you remain faithful? Today, make a choice. Who will you serve? Because the one you serve is the one who controls your life. Choose wisely. Choose God. Because when He is your master, you will never lack what truly matters. My dear friend, God does not give great blessings without first testing the heart. Before He entrusts you with more, He watches how you handle less. Financial struggle is not a sign of His absence. It is a test of your loyalty, a refining process before He releases greater provision. Luke 16:10 tells us, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. This means that what you do in seasons of lack determines what God can entrust you with in seasons of abundance. Are you still faithful when the money is tight? Do you still praise Him when opportunities seem scarce? Or do you let doubt creep in and turn your heart away? Many people ask God for financial breakthroughs, but they are not prepared to handle them. He does not bless recklessly. He blesses intentionally. He waits until he knows your heart is in the right place, that you will not let wealth replace your dependence on him. This season of struggle is temporary, but what God is building in you is eternal. Stay faithful, stay obedient, because when God sees that your trust is in him, not in money, he will open the floodgates of heaven in ways you never imagined. Your faithfulness in the valley prepares you for the blessings on the mountaintop. Keep walking. Your breakthrough is coming. Right now, I want to assure you of one thing, that great wealth requires strong character to sustain it. It is not just a blessing, it is a responsibility. And without the right character, it can destroy rather than uplift. God is not just interested in giving you financial abundance, he is interested in making sure you have the wisdom, discipline, and integrity to handle it. The story of the prodigal son is not just about rebellion, it's about what happens when a blessing comes before maturity. He asked for his inheritance too soon, convinced that wealth alone would bring him fulfillment. But what happened? He squandered it. He wasted what could have been a lifetime of security in a season of reckless living. Luke 15:13 tells us, the youngest son gathered all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. He thought money would last forever. He thought freedom meant spending without wisdom. But when the wealth ran out, so did the comfort, the friends, the security. This is exactly why God sometimes delays financial blessings. Not because he doesn't want you to prosper, but because he doesn't want prosperity to destroy you. If you are not ready to steward wealth, it will disappear as quickly as it came. But here's the good news. The prodigal son's story didn't end in failure. The process should not be given 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 failure. He said, God will not allow that to happen to you. He loves you too much to give you something that you are not prepared to sustain. That is why he takes time to develop your character before he increases your wealth. If your foundation is weak, the weight of financial success will crush you. But if your heart is rooted in humility, wisdom, and stewardship, God can trust you with more. Proverbs 10:22 says, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it." That means when God blesses you, it will not come with regret, greed, or spiritual emptiness. It will come with peace, purpose, and the ability to bless others. So if you are waiting for a financial breakthrough, ask yourself, am I ready? Am I prepared to manage what God wants to give me? Or am I like the prodigal son, wanting the blessing before I have the wisdom to sustain it? When your heart is right, the blessing will come, and this time it won't be wasted. Beloved chosen ones, I want to remind you of something I've said before, that when God does not bless you with financial abundance, it is never out of cruelty, it is out of love. He sees what you cannot. He knows what wealth can do to an unprepared heart. If given too soon, money can breed arrogance, irresponsibility, and reckless decisions. But when handled with maturity, it becomes a tool for purpose, not destruction. God is not just interested in blessing you. He is interested in making sure you can carry the blessing with integrity. That is why He takes time to develop humility, responsibility, and wisdom in you before increasing your provision. Proverbs 3:13-14 says, "Blessed is the one who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold." God values wisdom over wealth because wisdom can sustain what money alone cannot. If you are in a season of financial struggle, understand that God is shaping your character. He is teaching you how to manage resources, how to remain humble, and how to steward blessings wisely. Because true wealth is not just measured in money, it is measured in how well you handle what God gives you. Look at King Solomon. When God asked him what he desired, he did not ask for riches, he asked for wisdom. And because his heart was in the right place, God gave him both. When you seek wisdom first, wealth will follow. So do not rush the process. God's timing is perfect. He is not denying you, He is preparing you. And when the time comes, you will receive not just wealth, but the strength and wisdom to handle it well. Stay faithful, for your season of abundance is on its way. And not every financial hardship is a result of poor decisions. Sometimes your struggle is not natural, it is spiritual. The enemy sees your potential. He knows that if you step into financial freedom, you will fund ministries, break generational curses, and uplift others. So what does he do? He attacks. Ephesians 6:12 reminds us, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." The devil doesn't fight people who are going nowhere. He fights those who are dangerous to his plans. If you feel like every time you get ahead, something pulls you back, it's not a coincidence. The enemy uses financial hardship to wear you down, to make you doubt God's promises, to make you give up on your calling. But hear this, he cannot stop what God has ordained. The battle is already won. No financial struggle, no delay, no attack can override the blessings God has stored up for you. Your obedience, your faith, and your perseverance are your weapons. So do not be discouraged. Do not let fear take hold. When you face resistance, it's often a sign that you are on the verge of something great. Stay in prayer, stay in faith, and watch how God turns every attack into a testimony. What the enemy meant for evil, God will turn for good. Keep fighting. Victory is already yours. Because the enemy fears that your financial strength will expand God's kingdom. Because the enemy does fear what happens when a faithful servant of God has wealth. He knows that when the right people are financially free, they don't just elevate themselves, they elevate the kingdom. They fund ministries, support the poor, spread the gospel, and break the chains of generational poverty. That is what terrifies him. So, this is why financial struggle is often a battleground. The devil knows that if he can keep you broke, he can keep you distracted. fighting just to survive instead of walking in the abundance that allows you to bless others. He wants you to feel stuck, hopeless, and unworthy of prosperity, but he is a liar. God has called you to be more than just a survivor. He has called you to be a steward. Psalm 50:10 says, "For every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle upon 1,000 hills." God owns everything, and when the time is right, he will release resources into your hands, not just for yourself, but for his divine purpose. So when you face financial attacks, do not be discouraged. Look at the pattern in Scripture. Every person with a great calling faced opposition before stepping into their destiny. Joseph was thrown into a pit before ruling Egypt. David tended sheep in obscurity before becoming king. Even Jesus himself faced trials before fulfilling his mission. Financial obstacles are often a test, not of your ability, but of your endurance. The enemy wants to discourage you, make you doubt your worth, and convince you that you are not meant for more. But if he is fighting this hard to keep you down, it means you are a threat to his plans. Ephesians 6:12 reminds us, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." You are not just battling circumstances, you are battling forces that want to keep you from walking in your divine purpose. So do not mistake your struggles for failure. Instead, see them as confirmation that God has something greater for you. Stay strong, stay faithful, and keep pushing forward. Because when the time comes, God will elevate you, not just for your sake, but for the kingdom you are meant to impact. Beloved chosen ones, every great calling comes with great challenges. Those who are chosen by God are not given an easy path. They are refined through trials before they are entrusted with greater blessings. If you are going through hardship, it does not mean God has abandoned you. It means he is preparing you. Look at the stories of the greatest leaders in the Bible. Joseph had a dream of greatness, but before he saw it fulfilled, he was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and thrown into prison for a crime he did not commit. It seemed like every step was leading him further from his destiny. But in reality, God was positioning him. In the darkness of a prison cell, Joseph developed wisdom, resilience, and faith that would make him a leader in Egypt. David was anointed as king, yet he spent years tending sheep. He was not crowned immediately. Instead, he lived in obscurity, learning patience, responsibility, and courage in the quiet fields. The same young shepherd who fought off lions and bears would later stand before Goliath with unshakable faith. The throne was coming, but first God had to prepare him in the pasture. God does not elevate without first refining. The trials you face today are shaping the strength, wisdom, and endurance you will need for the future. The pressure you feel is not meant to crush you, but to prepare you to carry the weight of the blessings he has in store. James 1:12 reminds us, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." 1 Samuel 16:7 says, "The Lord does not look at the things people look at." People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. If you feel like you are stuck in an unexpected season, remember David and Joseph. They were not delayed, they were being prepared. So are you. Do not rush the process, because when God's time comes, you will be more than ready to step into your destiny. Do not despise this season of struggle. Do not give in to fear or frustration. Trust that God is working even when you cannot see it. Stay faithful, because when your time comes, your blessing will be far greater than what you have lost. What God is preparing for you is worth every trial you have endured. Keep going. Your breakthrough is coming. Beloved chosen ones, seasons of lack are never wasted in God's plan. They are not meant to break you, but to build you. When resources are scarce, when doors seem closed, when you wonder how you will make it through, these are the moments when faith is tested, resilience is forged, and spiritual awareness is sharpened. Faith does not grow in comfort. It grows in the fire of uncertainty, in the struggle to trust when answers are unclear. When everything is provided effortlessly, dependence on God can become an afterthought. But when you have no choice but to rely on Him, that is when faith becomes unshakable. Romans 5:3 and 4 says, "We also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope." Resilience is built when you refuse to quit despite hardship. Each trial you endure is shaping you into someone stronger, more prepared for the future blessings God has in store. What once would have made you anxious now makes you pray. What once would have broken you now makes you rise. Spiritual discernment is sharpened in seasons of struggle. You learn to hear God's voice more clearly because you are seeking Him more earnestly. You begin to recognize what truly matters, separating distractions from purpose. This season of lack is not a punishment. It is a divine classroom. God is teaching you to walk by faith, to endure with strength, and to see beyond what is temporary. Stay faithful, for in due time, He will lead you into a season of abundance with a heart that is truly prepared. Beloved chosen ones, we live in a world that glorifies wealth, a world that measures success by the size of your bank account, the house you live in, and the car you drive. Society tells you that money is the answer to every problem, that if you just had more, you would finally be happy, finally be at peace. But that is not the truth. God sees what we cannot. He knows that wealth is not inherently good or evil, but it is dangerous when placed in the wrong hands at the wrong time. That is why, in His great mercy, He sometimes withholds financial abundance, not to punish you, but He protects you from the traps of wealth. He is not depriving you, He is preparing you. Proverbs 16:18 warns us, "Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall." Wealth can make people believe they are untouchable, invincible, above the rules. It has a way of feeding pride, convincing people that they no longer need God, that they are self-sufficient. The moment wealth replaces faith, destruction is not far behind. Look at the world today. How many people have been ruined by the very wealth they once prayed for? How many have lost their families, their peace, their purpose, because they chased money above all else? We see celebrities, entrepreneurs, and leaders who seem to have it all, yet behind closed doors they battle depression, addiction, broken relationships. Money gave them everything they thought they wanted, but it also cost them everything that truly mattered. God does not want that for you. He is not just interested in blessing you. He is interested in making sure the blessing will not destroy you. That is why he is taking his time, refining your heart, shaping your character, and teaching you what truly matters before he places financial increase into your hands. Matthew 6:24 says, "No one can serve two masters. You cannot serve both God and money." If money becomes your master, it will rule your life, dictate your choices, and consume your thoughts. But when God is your master, he will provide exactly what you need in the right time, in the right way. And being with a good, honest servant makes the world where you work the miracle. Wealth whispers lies. It tells you that if you just had a little more, you would finally be secure. It convinces you that once you reach a certain number in your bank account, you will finally feel safe. But the truth is, money is fleeting. It can be gained and lost in an instant. Stock markets crash, businesses fail, unexpected disasters wipe out fortunes overnight. And those who place their trust in money are left with nothing. That is why Psalm 62:10 warns, if riches increase, do not set your heart on them. God knows how easily we can be deceived, how quickly wealth can turn from a blessing into a burden. He sees what money can do to a heart that is not ready for it, how it can breed greed, selfishness, arrogance, and a false sense of control. That is why he often delays financial abundance. Not because he wants to withhold good things from you, but because he wants to make sure that when he does bless you, the blessing will not lead to your downfall. God is not in the business of temporary success. He is in the business of eternal security. Proverbs 10:22 says, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it." That means when God blesses you financially, it will not come with stress, anxiety, or emptiness. It will come with peace, wisdom, and purpose. It will not just enrich your life, it will allow you to be a blessing to others. Think about the Israelites in the wilderness. God could have given them wealth instantly, but instead he provided manna each day, teaching them to trust him, to rely on him daily rather than store up riches. He did not want their security to come from what they had. He wanted it to come from him. This is what he is doing in your life. He is teaching you to trust him first, to seek him above all else, to place your faith in him rather than in what he can give you. Because when your heart is fully surrendered, when your faith is unshakable, then he knows you are ready. When you are ready, he will release what is yours. But it will come at the right time, in the right measure, in a way that will not lead you astray, but will instead draw you closer to him. So if you feel frustrated, if you wonder why your financial breakthrough has not come yet, remember this: God is not ignoring you, he is protecting you. He is making sure that when wealth does come, it will be a blessing, not a trap. My dear friend, instead of asking, when will God bless me financially, ask, am I ready to handle what I am asking for? Have I proven that I will not let wealth pull me away from my purpose? Have I demonstrated that I will use what he gives me for his glory, not just for personal gain? Because God does not bless recklessly. He blesses intentionally. And when he does, it will be in a way that strengthens you, not weakens you. Trust in his timing. Trust in his wisdom. Because true wealth is not found in money alone. It is found in a heart that is fully aligned with God's will. And when you reach that place, Nothing will be able to take away what He has prepared for you. Chosen ones, have you ever considered that the struggles you are facing are not obstacles, but divine redirections? That what feels like a setback is actually God guiding you toward what He truly wants for your life? We often have our own plans, our own desires, and our own version of success. But God's purpose is always greater. He is not just concerned with what you want. He is leading you toward what He wants for you. The world teaches us to chase success, to build wealth, to measure our lives by earthly achievements. But God does not define success the way the world does. His plan for you is not just about money, status, or material gain. It is about impact, purpose, and eternal significance. Colossians 3:02 tells us, set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. God allows financial struggles, delays, and challenges because He wants to shift your focus from temporary wealth to eternal purpose. Sometimes He has to take away distractions, remove comforts, and even let certain opportunities pass by so that you can finally see what He has been calling you to all along. Have you ever noticed that when things are going well, it's easy to get comfortable, easy to settle into routines, easy to forget to seek God as passionately as before? But when things become difficult, when finances are tight, when doors seem to close, suddenly we begin praying harder, seeking His will more earnestly. This is no accident. God uses financial struggle to clear your vision. He allows temporary lack so that your spirit can become more sensitive to His voice. When money is flowing, it is easy to be distracted by material pursuits. But when the flow stops, your priorities shift. You begin to ask, Lord, what do you want from me? And in that stillness, God begins to speak purpose into your life. Look at Moses. He grew up in Pharaoh's palace, living in luxury, surrounded by power and wealth. But that was not God's plan for him. Moses had to be stripped of earthly riches and sent into the wilderness before he could step into his true calling. It was in the wilderness that he met God, that he received his divine assignment. If Moses had stayed in Pharaoh's palace, he would have never fulfilled his destiny. In the same way, God may be allowing financial hardship in your life right now, not to punish you, but to reposition you. He is pulling you away from what you thought you needed so that He can guide you toward what He has truly prepared for you. Matthew 6:33 reminds us, but seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. God does not want you chasing after things that will not satisfy your soul. He wants to align your desires with His will. Because when you live in alignment with God's purpose, everything you need will be provided in His time, in His way, for His glory. Many people endure financial struggles because they are chasing worldly success instead of kingdom significance. They believe that more money will bring them fulfillment. But true peace and purpose can only be found in walking in God's plan. That is why God sometimes removes financial comfort, so that you can stop chasing after temporary things and start pursuing what truly matters. Have you asked yourself, is the path I am on the one that God truly desires for me? Or am I pursuing what I think will make me happy, rather than what He has ordained for my life? God loves you too much to let you settle for less than your divine calling. He is using this season to shift your focus, to align your heart with His vision, to prepare you for something greater. If He's closing doors, it is because He has a better one waiting for you. If He is removing distractions, it is because He wants you to draw closer to Him. Jeremiah 20:11 declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." His plans are always better, even when we do not understand the delays, even when the struggle feels heavy, even when the path is unclear. He is leading us towards something that is far greater than we can imagine. So do not resist this season. Do not see your financial struggles as failure. See them as God's loving way of redirecting you, refining you, and preparing you for the purpose He has placed on your life. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "Lord, what are you teaching me? What are you calling me to do? Where are you leading me?" When you surrender to God's will, when you stop fighting against the process and start embracing it, you will begin to see His hand at work in ways you never expected. Your struggles are not wasted. They are shaping you, molding you, and positioning you for what is coming next. God is not withholding from you. He is guiding you. He is protecting you. He is preparing you. And when you are fully aligned with His will, He will release everything you need exactly when you need it. Stay faithful, stay obedient, because what He has planned for you is far greater than anything you could ever plan for yourself. Oh, chosen ones, have you ever wondered why God allows you to go through hardship, financial struggles, or seasons of uncertainty? It is not just about your personal growth. It is about something much greater. God is shaping your heart, teaching you compassion, and giving you the ability to empathize with those who are struggling. You see, when you have walked through the fire of financial hardship, when you have felt the weight of unpaid bills, the stress of making ends meet, and the anxiety of wondering how you will make it through the month, you gain something that cannot be taught in a classroom or found in a book. You gain understanding. God allows you to experience lack so that when He blesses you, you will not hoard your blessings, you will share them. He wants to mold your heart so that you do not just seek financial abundance for yourself, but so that you become a vessel of His love, pouring out His provision for those still in their season of struggle. 2 Corinthians 1:04 reminds us He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. Your struggles are not just for you. They are meant to equip you to help others, to be a light to those who feel hopeless, to extend the same grace and mercy that God extended to you. Think about it. If you had never known what it was like to struggle, how could you truly understand the pain of someone who is suffering? If you had never felt what it was like to lack, how could you recognize the depth of another person's need? Your trials are not wasted. They are giving you a heart that beats in sync with the heart of God. God does not bless selfishness. He blesses those who will use their blessings to uplift others. That is why He sometimes allows you to go through financial hardship, so that when the time comes, when He releases financial abundance into your hands, you will remember what it felt like to struggle. You will remember the sleepless nights, the desperate prayers, the moments when you had to trust God for your daily provision. And that memory will keep you humble, generous, and willing to help those who are still in their season of struggle. The world teaches people to chase after wealth for their own gain. It tells them to accumulate, to store up riches, to seek comfort above all else. But God's way is different. He teaches that true wealth is not found in what you keep. Proverbs 19:17 says, "Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done." God watches how you treat others in your season of blessing. He sees whether you will hold on to wealth with closed fists, or whether you will release it to those in need. When you have lived through financial hardship, it changes you. It softens your heart toward the struggles of others. It makes you more patient, more understanding, more willing to extend a helping hand instead of judgment. It turns you into someone who does not just look at a struggling person and say, "They should have worked harder," but instead says, "I know what that feels like. Let me help." This is why financial struggle is often a divine classroom. It teaches you humility. It removes the pride that whispers, "I did this all on my own." Because the truth is, every good thing comes from God. The ability to earn, the opportunities that open, the provision that comes, it is all by His hand. And when you realize that, you stop seeing money as something to possess and start seeing it as a tool to bless. God wants you to be a giver, not just a receiver. He wants you to be a distributor of His blessings, a channel through which His provision flows to those in need. And He will not entrust great wealth to someone who has not first developed the heart to use it wisely. If you are going through financial hardship right now, ask yourself, what is God teaching me? Is He softening my heart toward others? Is He removing pride so that when I am blessed, I will remember to bless others? Is He preparing me to be a vessel of His provision? James 2:15-16 gives us a sobering reminder. Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? True faith is not just about words, it is about action. You were not meant to just receive blessings. You were meant to be a blessing. Every struggle you have faced is shaping you into someone who can give from a place of deep understanding, someone who can truly empathize with those who are hurting. So instead of resenting your financial struggles, start seeing them as preparation. Start seeing them as God molding your heart, preparing you to be a generous steward when He releases abundance into your life. Because when He blesses you, it will not be just for you. It will be for His kingdom, for His people, for His purpose. Your hardship is not meaningless. It is building something inside of you that will allow you to bless others in ways you never imagined. One day you will look back and realize that the struggles you endured gave you the heart, the compassion, and the wisdom to make a real difference. So hold on, stay faithful, because when God brings you into your season of abundance, you will not just be wealthy, you will be wise, compassionate, and generous. And that is the kind of wealth that truly changes the world. However, there are also many cases where, over a long period of time, financial struggles have been passed down from generation to generation. Many families are trapped in cycles of debt, poverty, and financial mismanagement, believing that this is simply their reality. But hear this today. You were not created to remain bound by the mistakes and limitations of the past. You were chosen to break the curse. Generational financial struggles are not just about money. They are about mindsets, habits, and spiritual strongholds that have been passed down through family lines. Perhaps your parents struggled financially. Maybe your grandparents lived in lack. And now you find yourself battling the same financial limitations, feeling as though no matter how hard you try, you cannot seem to move forward. But let me remind you of a truth that will change everything. You are not bound by what your family went through. You are a child of God, and His power is greater than any generational struggle. Galatians 3:13 tells us Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. That means through Jesus, every chain of lack, every stronghold of poverty, every financial curse that has plagued your family line can be broken. You do not have to live under the weight of what past generations endured. Breaking a curse does not happen by chance. It happens by choice. It happens when you decide that you will no longer live according to the patterns of the past, but according to the principles of God. My dear friends, a financial curse does not always look like extreme poverty. It can look like living paycheck to paycheck, always struggling, never having enough. It can look like fear of money, avoidance of financial responsibility, reckless spending, or constant debt. It can also be a mindset, believing that you are destined to struggle, that wealth is for other people but not for you. The enemy wants to keep you in these patterns because he knows that if you remain bound financially, you will not be able to fully walk in your purpose. He knows that if you are constantly worried about making ends meet, you will not have the freedom to serve, to give, or to fulfill the calling God has placed on your life. But today, you have the power to change your story. Today, you can make the decision that the cycle ends with you. And right now, I will show you 5 ways to break the generational financial curse, which I believe, if you follow them, you will live a beautiful life under God's word. The first step in breaking any curse is recognizing that through Christ, you are already free. You do not have to earn it, fight for it, or prove yourself. Jesus already paid the price. Begin to speak life over your finances. Declare, I am no longer bound by the struggles of past generations. I am stepping into the abundance and wisdom that God has for me. Proverbs 18:21 reminds us, the tongue has the power of life and death. Speak life over your financial situation. Do not say, I am always broke. Say, God is my provider, and He is leading me into financial breakthrough. The second step, generational curses are often rooted in generational mindsets. If you have grown up believing that money is scarce, that you will always struggle, that financial success is out of reach, then you will continue to live in that reality. God wants to shift your mindset. He wants you to stop thinking in terms of survival and start thinking in terms of stewardship. He does not just want to bless you with enough. He wants to bless you with overflow so that you can be a blessing to others. Philippians 4:19 says, and my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of His glory in Christ Jesus. God does not lack. He is not limited. And as His child, you are not called to live in a mindset of lack. The third step, if you want to break a curse, you cannot live the same way past generations lived. You must make different choices. If your family never saved money, start saving. If your family always lived in debt, commit to breaking free from debt. If your family never invested, learn how to grow your finances wisely. It does not matter what has been done before. You are the one God has chosen to change the future. Step 4, God does not just want to bless you. He wants to teach you how to manage what He gives you. Luke 16:10 says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." If you want to receive more, you must first show that you can be faithful with what you have now. Stewardship means budgeting wisely, living below your means, giving generously, and handling money with integrity. It means using what God gives you to build something greater, not just for yourself, but for His kingdom. And the final step, breaking a financial curse, is a process. It does not always happen overnight. There may still be challenges, there may still be struggles, but do not give up. It's not permanent. It's billionaires get rich on one idea, build it. Isaiah 60:22 says, "When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen." Trust that as you walk in obedience, as you align your finances with God's principles, He will release blessings into your life at the right time. The decisions you make today are not just for you. They are for your children, your grandchildren, and generations to come. When you choose to break free from financial bondage, you are not just changing your life, you are changing your family's future. One day your children will not have to struggle the way you did. One day your grandchildren will not inherit cycles of debt, but cycles of wisdom and stewardship. One day you will look back and see that because you chose to trust God, your entire family line was transformed. Galatians 3:29 says, "If you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise." That means you are already connected to a legacy of blessing. You are already positioned for financial freedom. You just have to step into it. Finally, the financial struggles of past generations do not define you. The enemy does not have the final say over your finances. God does. Rise up today and declare that the cycle ends with you. Walk in faith, make wise choices, and trust that God is leading you into financial breakthrough. Because when you choose to break the curse, you are not just changing your life, you are changing generations to come. Beloved chosen ones, have you ever wondered why the greatest blessings often come after the hardest struggles? Why does the path to breakthrough seem to be filled with pain, setbacks, and uncertainty? It is because God refines His chosen ones through trials. Just as gold must go through intense heat to remove impurities, God allows difficulties in your life to shape you, strengthen you, and prepare you for what is to come. Without refinement, gold remains in its raw state, lacking the brilliance and value it was meant to have. In the same way, without trials, your faith, character, and wisdom remain undeveloped. The process may feel painful, but it is necessary for God to transform you into the person He has called you to be. Trials reveal the true foundation of your faith. It is easy to trust God when everything is going well, when your finances are stable, and when doors are opening effortlessly. But who are you when everything seems to fall apart? Who are you when prayers go unanswered, when opportunities are delayed, when you feel abandoned in the struggle? Trials expose whether your faith is built on circumstances or on God's unchanging promises. They strip away self-reliance and force you to lean on Him completely. Every hardship you endure is a lesson in perseverance, trust, and spiritual maturity. Those who have never faced struggle will never know what it truly means to depend on God. God never allows trials without purpose. Every challenge is part of a greater plan. Sometimes difficulties come to remove things from your life that are holding you back. There may be relationships, habits, or mindsets that need to be stripped away before you can fully step into your calling. Other times, trials are meant to strengthen your endurance and prepare you for the responsibility that comes with greater blessings. When God is refining you, He is not doing it to harm you, but to equip you for the weight of what is coming. Many people ask God for more, but they do not realize that more requires growth, wisdom, and discipline. God's process ensures that when He blesses you, you will be able to sustain the blessing without it destroying you. The Bible is filled with examples of great leaders who were refined through trials before stepping into their destiny. Joseph was betrayed, enslaved, and imprisoned before he became a ruler in Egypt. His hardships developed the wisdom and resilience needed to manage a nation. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading God's people to freedom. His isolation was not a punishment, it was preparation. David was anointed as king, but spent years running from Saul before he sat on the throne. His trials strengthened his dependence on God, making him a leader after God's own heart. Even Jesus himself faced suffering, rejection, and the cross before completing his mission of redemption. Their struggles were not obstacles. They were part of the divine process. Trusting God's timing is one of the greatest lessons trials teach. It is natural to want answers immediately, to seek quick solutions, to question why things are not happening according to your expectations. But God's process is never rushed. He knows exactly what you need and when you need it. If you are in a season of struggle, trust that God is working behind the scenes, even when you cannot see it. His delays are never denials. They are moments of preparation. Many people abandon the process too soon, walking away just before their breakthrough arrives. Those who endure will see God's faithfulness in ways they never imagined. Remaining faithful in the fire is the key to overcoming trials. In the book of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into a fiery furnace because they refused to bow to a false god. Yet in the middle of the fire, they were not alone. The presence of God was with them, protecting them. And when they came out, not a single hair on their heads was burned. This story is a reminder that no matter how intense the trials you face, you are never alone. God walks through the fire with you, strengthening you, covering you, and refining you for greater things ahead. Your trials are not just for you, they are meant to be a testimony for others. When God brings you through, you will have a story that will inspire, encourage, and strengthen those who are struggling. The wisdom you gain in the fire will be the guidance someone else needs to keep going. Nothing you go through is wasted. God uses every challenge, every delay, every disappointment to shape you into the person He created you to be. He does not allow trials to defeat you. He allows them to prepare you for something greater. The refining process is not easy. It is uncomfortable, painful, and often confusing. But when you endure, when you remain faithful, the reward is far greater than anything you could have imagined. God promises that trials are temporary, but the transformation they bring is eternal. The challenges you face today are shaping you for the future God has prepared for you. Do not give up. Do not lose hope. The fire is not meant to destroy you, it is meant to transform you. And when God's refining work is complete, you will step into a season of abundance, wisdom, and victory that will make every trial worth it. My dear friend, the truth is, One of the hardest things to accept in life is waiting. We live in a world that values instant results, quick success, and immediate rewards. But God's timing does not follow human expectations. If you find yourself in a season of struggle, delay, or uncertainty, it does not mean that God has forgotten you. It simply means the time He has appointed for your breakthrough has not yet come. God is not withholding blessings from you to punish you. He is preparing you for something greater than you can see right now. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, He has made everything beautiful in its time. That means there is an appointed moment when everything will come together, when the doors will open, when the provision will arrive, and when you will step into the purpose God has planned for you. But if you try to force it before the right time, it will not last. Look at the life of Joseph. He had a dream of greatness as a young man, but his journey did not immediately lead to success. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned for years. To the outside world, it seemed like everything was going wrong, but in reality, everything was falling into place. Every hardship, every setback, every delay was moving him closer to his destiny. If Joseph had become a ruler the moment he had the dream, he would not have been ready. The process prepared him. The waiting refined him. And when the time was right, God elevated him in a single moment. The same principle applies to your life. What you are waiting for is not being denied, it is being developed. God is working behind the scenes, aligning people, opportunities, and circumstances to bring you into the blessing at the perfect moment. But until that moment arrives, He is calling you to trust Him. Isaiah 60:22 says, When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. Notice that God does not say if the time is right, He says when. That means there is a set moment when everything will shift, when the breakthrough you have been praying for will suddenly come to pass. Until then, your responsibility is to remain faithful, to continue growing, and to trust that God's timing is never late. One of the greatest dangers in seasons of waiting is the temptation to take matters into your own hands. Many people have destroyed their future by trying to force something before it was time. Look at Abraham and Sarah. God promised them a child, but when the years passed and nothing happened, they took matters into their own hands. Sarah told Abraham to have a child with her servant, Hagar, and that one decision led to conflict, division, and struggles that lasted for generations. When you rush ahead of God's timing, you create problems that never needed to exist. If God is making you wait, it is because what He has for you requires preparation. Imagine giving a child a heavy responsibility before they are ready. It would overwhelm them. In the same way, God does not give you a blessing before you have the capacity to sustain it. He will not allow something to come into your life that you are not spiritually, emotionally, or mentally. Look at David. He was anointed as king while he was still a shepherd. But did he take the throne immediately? No. He spent years tending sheep, fighting battles, and running for his life before he was finally crowned. If David had stepped into the throne too soon, he would not have been the leader Israel needed. The waiting season was not wasted. It was shaping him into the king God had called him to be. What if the delays you are experiencing right now are actually part of your preparation? What if the struggles, the unanswered prayers, the closed doors are not signs that God has abandoned you, but signs that He is working on something far greater than you imagine? Romans 8:28 reminds us, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Even the delays, even the disappointments, even the moments that feel like nothing is happening, God is using all of it to prepare. So what should you do while you wait? You should grow. You should pray. You should build your faith. Waiting is not passive. It is an active season of preparation. If you are waiting for financial breakthrough, this is the time to learn financial wisdom, to practice stewardship, to prepare yourself so that when the blessing comes, you will know how to handle it. If you are waiting for an opportunity, use this time to sharpen your skills, to deepen your relationship with God, to grow in wisdom. God does not waste time, and if you remain faithful, neither will you. When the appointed time comes, everything will happen suddenly. The years of waiting will turn into a moment of acceleration. What took others years to build, God can establish for you in an instant. The blessings that seem delayed will arrive right on time. God is never late. He is always working according to a perfect plan. But until that time arrives, do not lose heart. Do not allow frustration to make you doubt His promises. Do not compare your journey to others who seem to be ahead. Your timeline is unique, and God's plan for you is specific. What He is preparing for you is worth the wait. One day you will look back and realize that the waiting season was not about delay. It was about development. You will understand that the struggles were necessary to strengthen you, that the setbacks were actually setups for something greater. And when you step into what God has promised, you will know with certainty that it was worth every moment of waiting. Trust His timing, trust His process, because when the time is right, nothing can stop what God has planned for your life. My dear friends, and I can assure you of one thing, that one of the greatest challenges in life is learning to trust in what we cannot see. We are surrounded by a world that relies on what is visible, tangible, and logical. We are taught that if we cannot measure it, prove it, or see immediate results, then it is not real. But God calls His people to a different way of living. He calls us to walk by faith, not by sight. Faith is not about believing when everything is going well. Faith is not proven in seasons of abundance, when doors are opening effortlessly, when prayers are answered instantly, when success is visible. Faith is tested in the silence. It is proven in the waiting. It is demonstrated when nothing seems to be happening, yet you continue to trust that God is working. 2 Corinthians 5:7 reminds us, we walk by faith, not by sight. This means that as followers of Christ, we are not led by what we see with our physical eyes. We are led by what God has promised, even when circumstances seem to contradict His word. Faith is choosing to trust in God's goodness, even when life feels uncertain. It is believing in His provision, even when there is no visible evidence of supply. It is holding on to His promises, even when doubt and fear whisper that nothing will change. When the Israelites were wandering in the wilderness, they had to learn this lesson. They had no farmland, no stored food, no logical way of sustaining themselves. But God provided manna from heaven each day, just enough for what they needed. They could not see where their next meal was coming from, but they learned to trust that God would provide for them one day at a time. He was teaching them that security does not come from what they could see, it comes from knowing who He is. This is what God is teaching you in this season. He is calling you to trust beyond what your eyes can see. Maybe your finances look impossible. Maybe your future feels uncertain. Maybe every logical sign tells you to give up. But faith says, I may not see it yet, but I believe God is working. I may not have the answer, but I trust the one who does. I may not know how, but I know who. The enemy will always try to use your circumstances to weaken your faith. He will point to what you lack, to what has not happened, to what seems impossible. He will try to convince you that God has forgotten you, that you are alone, that nothing is changing. But faith refuses to listen to the enemy's lies. Faith stands firm on the truth that God is always working, even when you cannot see it. Hebrews 11:01 tells us, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Faith is not about having everything figured out. It is about trusting that God has already worked it out. It is about knowing that what He has promised will come to pass in His perfect timing. Faith is believing before the miracle happens, before the breakthrough arrives, before the blessing is visible. Look at the story of Abraham. God promised him that he would become the father of many nations, yet for years he had no children. Everything he could see told him that the promise was impossible. But Romans 4:20-21 says, yet he did not waver through unbelief regarding the promise of God, but was strengthened in his faith and gave glory to God, being fully persuaded that God had power to do what He had promised. Abraham's faith was not based on what he saw. It was based on who God is. If you are in a season where you cannot see how things will work out, this is not a sign that God has abandoned you. It is a sign that He is teaching you to live by faith. He is strengthening you, deepening your trust, preparing you to step into something greater than you imagine. Because those who walk by faith will always go further than those who rely only on what they see. Faith does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing to believe that God's reality is greater than what you see. The world says you are struggling financially, so you will always struggle. Faith says, my God will supply all my needs according to His riches and glory. The world says this situation is impossible. Faith says, with God, all things are possible. The world says, there is no way out. Faith says, God makes a way where there is no way. When Peter saw Jesus walking on water, he stepped out of the boat and walked toward Him. As long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, he did the impossible. But the moment he looked at the wind and the waves, the moment he focused on what he saw instead of who he was walking toward, he began to sink. This is what happens when we live by sight instead of faith. We become overwhelmed by circumstances. We begin to doubt. But even when Peter sank, Jesus immediately reached out and saved him. God is calling you to keep your eyes on Him, not on the storm around you. Do not let fear, doubt, or the opinions of others shake your trust in what He has spoken. Do not let temporary circumstances convince you that God's promises are not true. What He has said will come to pass, but you must hold on and walk by faith. There will be moments in life when you cannot see how things will come together, when every logical thought tells you to give up. But that is when faith matters most. Faith is not about knowing every detail of the journey. It is about trusting the one who leads the way. Isaiah 41:10 reminds us, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. God is not asking you to figure everything out. He is asking you to trust Him. This season is an opportunity to develop a faith that is unshakable. A faith that does not depend on circumstances, but on the character of God. A faith that stands firm even when nothing makes sense. Because when you live by faith, you will walk into miracles that others thought were impossible. You will see doors open that no one expected. You will experience blessings that go beyond what your eyes could ever have imagined. Keep trusting, keep believing, keep walking by faith, because what God has for you is greater than anything you can see right now. And when the time is right, you will understand that every step of faith was leading you exactly where you were meant to be. Beloved chosen ones, you may also find yourself in the same situation as the majority of people, wondering why you're struggling financially, asking why God has not yet released the abundance we have been praying for. The truth is, one of the reasons for financial hardship may be past mismanagement of what was already given. God is not just concerned with blessing you, He is concerned with making sure you know how to handle the blessings He provides. If you have misused financial resources before, God may be withholding more, not as a punishment, but as an opportunity for you to learn and grow into a wiser steward. Luke 16:10 reminds us, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. This means that how you handle small blessings determines whether God can entrust you with greater ones. If in the past, money came into your hands but was spent carelessly, used for things that did not align with God's purpose, or wasted on temporary pleasures, then it is possible that this season of financial struggle is a time of correction. God does not withhold resources out of cruelty. He does it out of love, ensuring that the next time He blesses you, you will be able to manage what He gives wisely. Imagine a parent who gives their child a large amount of money only to see them waste it irresponsibly. Would that parent continue giving without first teaching the child how to handle money properly? Of course not. In the same way, God does not want you to receive a blessing that you are not prepared to handle. Misusing financial blessings can take many forms. Perhaps in the past, you spent without thinking of the future, living paycheck to paycheck, even when there was an opportunity to save and invest. Maybe you allowed wealth to lead you away from God, becoming more focused on material things rather than your relationship with Him. Or perhaps you had the means to bless others, to give generously, but instead you held on tightly, believing that your security came from money rather than from God. Proverbs 21:20 tells us, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." This verse is a reminder that wisdom in financial matters is essential. God calls His people to be good stewards, not just consumers. The ability to manage money well is not just a skill, it is a reflection of character and responsibility. If past mistakes in handling money have led to your current financial struggles, do not lose hope. God is not condemning you. He is calling you to a higher level of wisdom and responsibility. This is an opportunity to grow, to reflect, and to change how you handle financial blessings moving forward. The prodigal son is a powerful example of what happens when wealth is mismanaged. In Luke 15, Jesus tells the story of a young man who demanded his inheritance before the right time. Instead of using it wisely, he squandered everything on reckless living. When the money was gone, he found himself in a desperate situation, alone and without resources. But his story did not end in failure. He realized his mistake, humbled himself, and returned to his father. Like the prodigal son, if you recognize that you have mismanaged financial blessings in the past, the first step toward restoration is humility. Acknowledge where things went wrong. Admit that there were decisions made that did not align with God's wisdom. Then, commit to doing things differently. God is not looking for perfection. He is looking for a heart that is willing to change. Proverbs 3:9 and 10 says, "Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. When you align your financial habits with God's principles, you create room for His blessings to flow in a way that will be sustainable and fulfilling. If you are in a season of financial struggle, ask yourself, how have I handled God's blessings in the past? Have I been faithful with what He has given me? Have I been wise, or have I been careless? This is not about dwelling on guilt. It is about learning and preparing for what is next. One of the greatest signs that you are ready for financial restoration is your willingness to take responsibility. Those who blame their circumstances, the economy, or others for their financial struggles will continue in the same cycle. But those who recognize where they have made mistakes and commit to change are the ones who will experience true transformation. Being a good steward means developing habits that honor God. It means creating a budget, saving wisely, giving generously, and using money as a tool to serve others rather than just yourself. It means learning from past mistakes and applying wisdom to future opportunities. When God sees that you have learned the lessons from your past, when He sees that you are ready to handle wealth in a way that aligns with His purpose, that is when the doors of financial breakthrough will open. But until then, trust that this season of struggle is not wasted. It is a time of preparation, a time of refinement, a time where God is teaching you what it means to be a faithful steward. Isaiah 48:17 declares, "This is what the Lord says, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am the Lord your God, who teaches you what is best for you, who directs you in the way you should go." God is not withholding blessings to harm you. He is guiding you toward wisdom so that when the next blessing comes, it will be sustained and multiplied rather than lost. If you want financial restoration, begin today by making new choices. Let go of past mistakes. Seek God's wisdom and start handling what you have now with care and intention. Be faithful with the small things, and God will trust you with greater things. Your financial struggles do not have to define your future. They can be the turning point, the moment where you shift from careless spending to wise stewardship, from fear to faith, from scarcity to abundance. When God sees that you are ready, He will restore and bless you beyond what you ever imagined. But first, He is making sure that you will handle the blessing well. This is not the end of your financial story. It is the beginning of a new chapter. One where you walk in wisdom, where you manage your blessings with responsibility, and where you step into a future where wealth is not wasted, but used for God's glory. Be faithful now, and when the time is right, God will release what has been waiting for you all along. My dear friend, I can assure you of one thing, that happiness, fulfillment, and peace are not found in wealth. Society teaches us that success is measured by how much money we have, the size of our house, the car we drive, and the possessions we accumulate. But true contentment does not come from material things. It comes from knowing God, trusting Him, and understanding that our worth is not determined by what we own. Philippians 4:12-13 says, "I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well, sad, or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through Him who gives me strength." The Apostle Paul understood something that many people struggle with. Contentment is not based on circumstances, but on relationship with God. Whether he had much or little, he remained at peace because his source of joy was never in wealth, but in God's presence. Many people believe that if they just had more money, they would finally be happy. They convinced themselves that financial security will bring them peace, that success will make them feel valuable, that wealth will eliminate their struggles. But time and time again, we see wealthy people who are still miserable, still anxious, still searching for something more. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy true joy. It can provide temporary security, but it cannot fill the emptiness inside the human heart. Only God can do that. God allows seasons of financial struggle to teach us this lesson. When you have less, you learn to depend on Him. When resources are scarce, you are reminded that He is your provider. If you had everything you wanted instantly, if every financial need was met effortlessly, would you still seek Him with the same intensity? Would you still pray with the same urgency? Would you still rely on Him, or would you begin to trust in your own strength? This is why Proverbs 38:9 says, "Keep falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise I may have too much and disown you and say, 'Who is the Lord?' Or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of my God." This passage reveals a deep truth. Both extreme wealth and extreme poverty can become distractions from God. The key is learning to be content, to trust that God will provide exactly what you need when you need it. The Israelites had to learn this lesson in the wilderness. God provided manna from heaven each day, just enough for that day. He was teaching them to rely on Him, not on stored up wealth, not on excess, but on His daily provision. Some of them tried to gather more than they needed, to store extra for the future, but the manna spoiled. Why? Because God wanted them to trust Him, to believe that He would always take care of them, to learn that contentment comes not from abundance, but from faith in His promises. Many people believe that financial success will bring them closer to happiness. But the reality is that wealth often brings more distractions, more responsibilities, and more temptations. Jesus warned about this in Matthew 6:24, saying, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. When money becomes your master, your faith weakens. When your life revolves around financial gain, your spiritual priorities shift. But when God is your master, you are free. You are free from the fear of lack, free from the anxiety of financial instability, free from the endless chase for more. God is not against wealth, but He is against wealth owning you. He wants you to have blessings, but He does not want blessings to have your heart. He wants you to experience financial stability, but not at the cost of losing your faith, your integrity, and your dependence on Him. Paul said he had learned the secret of being content. That means contentment is not automatic. It is something that must be developed, something that must be cultivated. It requires a shift in mindset, a change in perspective, a deep trust that God knows what is best for you. If you are constantly chasing after more, if you are always looking for the next financial breakthrough, you will never experience peace. But if you choose to trust God, to be grateful for what you have, to seek His kingdom above all else, you will discover a joy that money could never provide. This does not mean that you should not work hard, that you should not seek to improve your financial situation, but it does mean that your peace should not be dependent on whether you have much or little. It means that your identity should not be tied to your income. Your worth should not be defined by your wealth, and your trust should not be placed in material things. 1 Timothy 6:7 says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. At the end of your life, your bank account will not matter. The size of your house will not matter. The car you drove will not matter. What will matter is how you lived, how you loved, how you trusted God, how you used what you had to serve His purpose. If you are in a financial struggle right now, do not believe the lie that you cannot be happy until you have more. Choose to be content today. Choose to trust that God knows exactly what you need. Choose to believe that His timing is perfect, because true wealth is not found in money. It is found in peace, in faith, in the assurance that you are exactly where God wants you to be. God is using this season to teach you to rely on Him, to trust that He is enough, to find joy in what you have rather than in what you lack. Because when you learn to be content in Him, no amount of money can shake your peace. You will walk in faith, knowing that your future is secure, not because of your bank account, but because of the one who holds your life in His hands. Trust Him, be grateful, and know that true riches are found in a heart that rests in God, not in material possessions. When you live this way, you will discover a freedom that no amount of wealth could ever provide. Every great calling comes with a great preparation. Many people believe that if God has placed a mission in their hearts, then success should come quickly. Doors should open easily and resources should flow effortlessly. But the truth is, a divine mission often requires a season of poverty. This is not because God wants to withhold blessings from you, but because He is preparing you for something much greater than you can see right now. Throughout history, those who were called by God often had to endure seasons of lack before stepping into their purpose. Moses spent years in the wilderness before leading the Israelites to freedom. Joseph endured slavery and imprisonment before ruling over Egypt. David lived as a fugitive before he was crowned king. Even Jesus, the Son of God, was born in a humble manger, walked the earth without riches, and endured hardship before fulfilling His mission. If the greatest leaders in Scripture had to go through seasons of struggle, why would it be any different for you? A season of poverty is not a punishment. It is a period of refinement. God is stripping away distractions, teaching you dependence on Him, and shaping your character so that when the time comes for you to step into your mission, you will be prepared. If wealth came too soon, it could become a distraction. If success arrived too quickly, it could make you forget the purpose behind your calling. But when you have walked through the fire of struggle, you emerge with wisdom, strength, and humility. Many people misunderstand financial struggles. They see them as a sign that they are failing, that they are not favored, that God has forgotten them. But the opposite is often true. God allows seasons of financial difficulty to prepare those He has called. First, a season of poverty teaches complete reliance on God. When you do not have enough, you learn to trust that God will provide. You stop depending on your own strength, your own abilities, and your own understanding, and instead you lean on His promises. This is why Jesus told His disciples in Matthew 6:25, "Do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear." He was teaching them to live by faith, not by fear. Second, a season of poverty builds spiritual endurance. Just as an athlete must go through intense training before stepping into the competition, God is strengthening you through this process. He is stretching your faith, increasing your resilience, and developing the perseverance that will be necessary for the mission ahead. Romans 5:03-04 reminds us, We glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. Third, this season humbles you so that when blessings come, they do not corrupt you. Many people think they are ready for success, but when wealth and influence arrive, they forget God, they lose focus, and they become consumed by material things. God will not release certain blessings until He knows that wealth will not replace Him in your heart. He is testing your faithfulness, ensuring that when resources come, you will use them for His glory and not for self-indulgence. Joseph's story is a perfect example of how a season of poverty is part of God's plan. As a young man, he received a vision from God that he would one day lead. But before that vision came to pass, he was betrayed, sold into slavery, and thrown into prison. From the outside, it seemed like Joseph's life was falling apart. But in reality, God was positioning him. Each setback was actually a step toward his destiny. And when the appointed time came, in a single moment, Joseph was elevated from the prison to the palace. David was another man who had to endure hardship before stepping into his calling. He was anointed as king, yet he spent years running for his life, living in caves and experiencing lack. If David had been crowned immediately, he would not have had the wisdom and strength that came from enduring those hardships. God was using that season to mold him into a leader who would rely on him completely. Even Jesus himself went through a season of poverty before fulfilling his mission. He was born in a manger, raised by a carpenter, and spent years traveling without wealth or luxury. When Satan tempted him with riches and power, he refused, knowing that his purpose was not in material gain, but in fulfilling God's will. If Jesus endured lack for the sake of his mission, then why should we expect to avoid it? If you are in a season where finances are tight, where opportunities seem far away, where you feel like you are struggling while others are thriving, do not lose heart. God is not delaying your blessing. He is preparing you for something greater. First, change your perspective on poverty. Stop seeing it as a punishment and start seeing it as preparation. This is not a permanent condition. It is a training ground for the mission ahead. Second, strengthen your faith. This is the time to build a foundation of trust in God. If you can trust Him in lack, you will remain faithful when abundance comes. Use this time to deepen your prayer life, study His Word, and grow spiritually. Next, be a good steward of what you have. Even in seasons of lack, God calls us to be faithful with what we have. Budget wisely, give generously even when it seems small, and handle every resource with care. Luke 16:10 says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." 4, focus on your mission, not your money. Wealth is a tool, but it is not the goal. Do not let financial struggles distract you from the purpose God has placed on your life. Keep serving, keep working, and trust that provision will come in due time. And finally, trust God's timing. Your season of lack is not forever. At the appointed time, God will release the resources you need. But until then, trust that He knows what He is doing. Isaiah 60:22 says, "When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen." Seasons of financial struggle are temporary, but the lessons they teach last forever. God is building in you the strength, faith, and wisdom that you will need when He releases greater blessings. Do not despise this season. Embrace it as part of your preparation. One day you will look back and realize that the struggles were necessary. They shaped you. They deepened your faith. They positioned you for the mission God has called you to. And when the blessing comes, you will be ready not just to receive wealth, but to steward it well, to use it for God's glory, and to fulfill the purpose He created you for. Your mission is greater than money. Your calling is bigger than financial struggle. Trust the process, remain faithful, and know that when the time is right, God will release what has been waiting for you all along. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. To conclude today's message, if you are struggling financially, if you feel like you are stuck in a season of lack, do not let discouragement take hold of your heart. What you are experiencing is not a sign of God's absence. It is a sign of His process. Every trial, every delay, and every moment of struggle has a purpose far greater than you can see right now. He is refining you, teaching you, and shaping you for something much greater than you imagined. God does not measure success the way the world does. The world tells you that wealth equals value, that financial abundance defines your worth. But God's kingdom operates differently. He is not just concerned with giving you riches. He is concerned with making sure those riches do not control you. He is concerned with making sure that when financial blessings come, they serve His purpose rather than becoming your master. This is why seasons of financial struggle are often necessary. They teach dependence on God rather than money. They remove pride, deepen faith, and develop character. They shift focus from temporary wealth to eternal purpose. If you have ever asked why you are facing financial hardship while pursuing God's will, know this: you are not alone and you are not forgotten. You are being prepared for something greater. Throughout history, those whom God called endured hardship before stepping into their purpose. Joseph endured betrayal and imprisonment before becoming a ruler. David lived as a fugitive before becoming king. Jesus Himself lived humbly, endured suffering, and fulfilled His mission through sacrifice. If their journeys required seasons of struggle, should we expect anything less? What you are going through now is shaping you for what is to come. Do not allow temporary financial struggles to make you doubt your calling. Do not let the delay convince you that God is not working. He is. And when the time is right, everything will align. Trust the process. Stay faithful in what God has placed in front of you. Be a wise steward of what you have now, no matter how little it seems. Seek contentment in God, not in wealth. Walk by faith, not by sight. And most of all, remember that your financial struggles do not define you. Your faith in God does. You are being refined. You are being strengthened. And when the appointed time comes, God will release the blessings He has stored for you, not just so you can prosper, but so you can fulfill the mission He has called you to. This is not the end of your story. It is the foundation of something greater. Stay faithful, keep trusting, and watch what God will do in your life. If this message has inspired or blessed you in any way, we humbly invite you to support the channel through your encouragement and gratitude. Your contributions allow us to continue spreading God's word and sharing His peace with those who need it most. Whether through a kind word, a prayer, or simply sharing this message, you are helping to shine His light into the world. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who may need this encouragement today. Your engagement helps this community grow and enables us to reach more lives with the love of Christ. We would love to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments which part of today's message spoke to you the most. May God cover you with His grace, strengthen you, and bless everything you do.